Welcome to the Loud Quiet. Ooh, empty nester. Okay. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think that actually probably is the theme of the empty nest. What are we doing? Let's do this. Let's do this thing. I don't know if I'm recording. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Sans children. Just us. We need a tissue box up here. Follow along on our journey, and maybe, we can learn from others.
Yeah. I don't have a clue how to be empty nester.
This is the Loud Quiet, living the empty nest.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Loud Quiet. It is episode 26. We are back. For those of you that are watching, you can see that we are back in the studio. No road trip, thank God, this weekend. It was just a chill weekend, which was nice. Mm-hmm. It's another chance to record here in the studio. It's a chance to thank y'all again for listening. It is encouraging to see your comments, to see what you have shared with us about your empty nest life, and just the encouragement you give for us to keep this thing going. So thank y'all for listening, and thank you for telling folks about this.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm going. You didn't throw it over to me.
I did with my eyes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know we were using nonverbal cues now. So, yeah.
We use that nonverbal cue all the time.
This is great. Leave this in because this is a great segue into today is our episode. We were going to talk about Valentine's Day.
Right.
Yes. Love and hearts.
This is so love and hearts, though, for us.
Yeah. So we thought that we would talk about some past Valentine's Day, what Valentine's Day means to us, and songs that were important to us when we were probably in our, mostly dating. That was more dating, I think. So, so I thought
I'm sure they carry forward today. Yeah. So the timing of them.
Yeah, I thought we would just, and it's interesting. We'll get into some, but Tegan actually brought up Valentine's Day. I brought them treats when we went out there last weekend, and listening to her memories, because where you and I, here's how I view Valentine's Day. If something happens that weekend, or if something showed up that day, okay, great. But it's not an expectation of, you better get me some flowers and some candy, or I'm going to be really mad at you for the rest of the, we just never really treated it that way.
We didn't. It's such a dangerous place for the guy to be, if something shows up, that's okay, but I don't expect it. That is a very gray area. Sometimes I think the guy, if the roles are reversed, but for me, the guy, it'd almost be easier if it were, no, this is what I expect.
Well, yeah, and I think, again, that's where it comes to communication with your spouse, partner, whatever. I mean, we just asked each other, are we doing anything? Yeah. Do you want anything? Because I don't want to get blindsided that you expected me to bake some gourmet meal or something on Wednesday night.
But if one showed up, I wouldn't.
That's not happening. So I have done that in the past.
Have been turned.
That's not happening. So, and that's the other thing, is that this is such a men's holiday,
why is the responsibility all on us? I don't get it.
But then I think it has also morphed into the Galentines, which is probably thanks to some, social media and shows and that kind of thing, to where girls who may not have boyfriends or husbands at the time, or I've even seen it with my married girlfriends, do a Galentine's thing. So, it's a high pressure holiday that we don't view it that way. So,
and that is what 20, or I guess almost 24 years of marriage will do for you, that you can actually have that honest conversation. Yeah. Sure, if something shows up, but then there's no guilt back and forth.
And I think we actually, we'll get into let's do the songs first, and then we'll get into how we kind of nixed Valentine's Day out of our...
I think that's a genius idea. Let's do this. Let's get to it.
Okay, so first song, some of you will know these. No, I know. We should have had I don't know how to do put music on. You'd have to do that in post. But so yes, this is Donna Lewis, I Love You, Always Forever. This was a song I remember you were like, please don't tell anyone that I actually like the song and that we kind of sing it.
It is such a catchy little
It
pop.
is.
It is. It is the cotton candy of music.
Yeah.
There is nothing behind this song. It is not nutritious. I don't even like cotton candy. It's probably a bad example, but there is nothing to it. It is just fluff, but it's fun fluff.
And it was in that era of a lot of those kind of one-hit wonder, those kind of songs. So moving on, we have Air Supply, Making Love Out of Nothing at All. We've already talked about Air Supply, how much we love them. And yes, this song was blasted all the time in the car.
And so sweet. Brought us so close together emotionally from a romantic perspective. It's just...
two guys singing,
in a falsetto voice somehow has brought us to a deeper connection.
That I always thought in the past they were together, but they're not. I mean,
I never thought that.
Really?
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay. All right. Next, this is the Celine Dion. It's all coming back to me now.
And this is the one that this
Meatloaf.
song is 7 minutes long, I think. It's somewhere in that neighborhood. And you said it there. This is a song that I didn't like. Or I think I may have said this about the guiltiness around this one more than even the Donna Lewis one, because it's Celine Dion. There's no coolness to this. And then I come to find out, it's written by Meatloaf.
Yeah, so,
well, then suddenly I'm on board with this song. And it is, once you know that, and then when you listen to this song, it is the more mature version of Dashboard by the Paradise Light, or Paradise by the Dashboard Light. It is a classic Meatloaf song.
I love this song. And her voice and her ballads are just so good.
Sure.
But this one, yes, I remember playing it over and over and over again when you have to hit repeat on your
That's right.
whatever
You could set your
device
CD
you were
player
listening
to repeat. Yeah, it was, and certainly this is somewhat timely that we just watched the Grammys last week, where the big reveal was her coming on stage with her. I make it just right, rigid body syndrome. Yeah, and which is a tragic story of an incredibly talented person who is still, I would imagine, still has all that talent in her, just perhaps can't physically deliver.
Yeah. So then the last Endless Love by Diana Ross and Lionel Richie. So all of the, if you're watching or if you're not watching and you're listening, you can go back and look, because the album cover of this one, our song cover, is
That's some good sunglasses and hair right there on Lionel.
Yeah.
She looks great, right? Yeah, it's just, there's something about the 80s perm look for a guy and then those sunglasses. Okay, so there's a story with this one, and there's a reason why this song actually became a little more special than any of us actually anticipated, and it's a mixture of sweetness and humor. We had gone to one of our favorite Italian restaurants in North Dallas at the time. It's when I was living in my apartment in Montfort, and it's called Natali's. Not there anymore. Great place. It was one of those that they knew us, we knew them, and
I mean, it was an old Italian guy. His mom would sit in the corner
and do fortune telling.
I know. I should have gotten my tarot cards read or my fortune read from her at one point, but yeah. A small, tiny little place.
Yeah, the classic neighborhood where they certainly knew our name and many times would anticipate our order.
Yeah.
Which was absolutely fine. So we were driving home. So that was just it's a place that was a one of warmth for us, one of relationship for us. And we're driving back on Beltline, for those of you that know Dallas. And this song comes on. And suddenly I hear a voice also singing along with this voice. And we start singing this song back and forth to each other in the car in the most vulnerable, sweet, connected sort of way. And ever since,
I think the wine probably had something to do with that. So,
or the sweet, loving feelings that we were having between each other. But yeah, I mean, we really did. We sang this song back and forth to each other.
And I think I pulled a hairbrush out of my
Did you?
purse,
I don't remember that part.
Which now I'm thinking, I don't
Did you
ever.
even add a hairbrush?
No, I had. I mean, but I don't remember carrying one in my purse. But I probably did when I was in my 20s. But yeah.
And now we can actually look at each other and just go bum, 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 bum,
and
right then we know.
Yeah, and when the song was on Friends too, when Phoebe and Chandler are singing it, and yeah, it's just a good again, another power ballad,
Oh, yeah.
with two great
Yeah.
voices. The talent pool is just amazing in this song. And also, just a sidebar, we just watched, if you have Netflix and you're of our age or older, the there's a documentary on We Are the World. Excellent.
Yeah.
Go watch it. Lionel Richie made me, and Diane Ross, she's in it too, but very, very good documentary
Didn't know the
about
story.
how
It's a pretty intense story.
how that song came
Yeah.
together. So anyway, sidebar.
And so we're talking about this, and here it is 20, I'm not going to get this right, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 27 years ago, and yet this still makes us smile from that moment on Beltline approaching Montfort, right? As we're singing that in the gold Maxima.
Yeah, I guess it would have been 28 years ago. Yeah.
Something.
Oh, which when I was going back to the Air Supply song, last year was the 40th anniversary of that song.
Oh.
So yeah.
We should have stopped down.
I know. I didn't.
Let's follow them
realize
like a Grateful Dead tour. Just follow them around.
I still want to see them.
We will.
But I know. Okay. So, yes. So these were the songs that we really, considered our love songs, I guess, as you
There's
would call
a
it.
ton of other ones, and even ones
sure.
that might be considered more cool, right? That
Yeah.
were more current, more. There's probably Depeche Mode and New Order songs and all sorts of stuff, but these have just been cemented both from a humor perspective,
Yes.
to and I think it's almost in the spectrum. It kind of went from humor to sweetness. here.
And that's what I did. I ended with the super special one, if you want to call it that. But yes, so when going back to Valentine's Day, and since that is coming up this week, we in our dating, I'm sure we did. I have cards downstairs from Valentine's Day, and I'm sure there were gifts exchanged when we were in the dating phase. But I know this is what I remember that killed it for us. Mm-hmm. At least killed the going out on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's.
We
can we
didn't-
reset that headline? This killed our relationship. We were
No.
over. We're faking it now. No, killed Valentine's as a scripted, scheduled. On the 14th, you will do something romantic.
Yes.
Come hell or high water.
Yeah. Do you want to tell it, or do you want
Oh
me to
no.
tell it? Okay.
Well, we may have our different perspectives. Go ahead.
Oh, well, okay. We loved Houston's. We would go to Houston's frequently. It was right down the street from your apartment. So we were like, oh, let's go there on Valentine's night. Big mistake. Huge.
Big mistake. Channel all of Julia Roberts' delivery of that line.
Yeah.
It is huge
It was a big
mistake.
mistake. Yeah. It was packed.
And we had reservations. We
Did
had
we?
to have.
I don't
maybe we
know.
didn't. I don't know.
I don't know. I
It
don't
just was one of
remember.
those of you're thinking, wait, I'm supposed to be romantically connecting with the woman I love, and instead I'm standing in a 10 by 10 space, nut to butt, with 50 other people, sweating and grumpy and loud and hungry. And
The service was awful.
it probably was because they were overwhelmed,
Sure.
not the
Yeah,
individuals
right.
doing it, right? It was such the opposite of what you would expect an experience to be. I don't remember if it was one of the fixed price menus or not.
I don't know. I think it might have been. I think that was another thing that turned us off. We were like, oh, we can't even come here and have what we want.
Where are my chicken tenders
Yeah.
and fries, which they do a spectacular job of.
Yeah. But, the one thing that Houston's was known for is if your tea glass was half full, oh, here's your other,
Oh, that's right.
And that's what I
forgot
remember.
about that in Houston's.
I remember we were sitting there going, no one has brought me another
glass of
glass
whatever.
of what. Yeah. I mean, so that pretty much cemented. And I remember we were both like, we are never going. And this was before we were even married.
Right.
We are never going out on Valentine's Day night again. Or even now, some of the restaurants have pushed it to the weekends. Like this year, it's on a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So they've done the weekend before and some the weekend after. And again, they're doing these price fixed menus. Well, I don't want to go when I have to pick what's,
Right.
on your menu, unless it's something that I enjoy. But yeah, so that's what.
I've heard it described as, actually, I think I'm channeling what folks have said about New Year's, that it's amateur night. I almost feel that way about going out on Valentine's Day. And sorry for those of you that actually love going out on Valentine's Day. I've just insulted all of our listeners there.
Well,
But
and this is just us. That's what I was saying. This is how we treated Valentine's Day and how we treat the holiday itself. So.
It is the opposite of an event that brings me closer to you, which is, in theory, the point of a scripted holiday about love.
Yeah.
So no more dinners for us on Valentine's Day. But what have we done? I mean, we've done things on Valentine's.
Yeah. And so we did. This was.
So for those that
what year this was,
people that are listening, this is a picture of us at Blue Man Group
in Chicago.
And that's us wearing clothes in the theater.
Yeah,
it was so cold.
February in Chicago, not a great idea. Yeah. Love Chicago.
There's a reason why a Valentine's Day trip was cheap.
I mean, all of our pictures from this trip, all you can see is our eyes because we were covered and covered. I don't even remember what year this is, but it's
I don't remember the year. What I do remember is torturing that poor dude because it took us about 5 or 6 pictures to get this right. Either way. But he couldn't talk. They weren't allowed to talk, so we could do whatever we wanted.
Yeah. So that was, a trip that we did that revolved around Valentine's Day.
That was fun, too. I don't know if you remember. They actually called out my name before the show started. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it was Rick Denton. Will you stand up?
They did
and then
those.
They pretended that you were the VIP and made everybody applaud for you, so I felt very special.
Yeah, no, that was a fun trip. So
you were with a VIP. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thanks. I think we know who the VIP is in this crew. So anyway.
It is thrown down.
One thing I will say with Valentine's, because we're about to get into some pictures that are more, I turned the focus more to making the kids feel special on there, and I enjoyed their parties and all that kind of stuff. And I did hear this week several on different podcasts, dads saying how they want to make their daughters feel special on Valentine's Day because that's how they want them to learn that this is how a man is supposed to treat you.
Love it.
And I was like, yeah, and you've done a great job of that, and we'll get into some of that
Tegan knows
in a second. Yeah.
If the boy didn't open the door for her.
Oh, yeah. No, she's even said, and she's noticed it with her other friends. He didn't open the door for her. That is not, no, she knows. So that was our trip. So then, yes, this was one of Tegan's. It's her, for those of you listening. We got very creative with her boxes for Valentine's Day. And this was the year she was really into frogs. And so we made a frog.
That's a milk jug?
Yeah, it's a milk jug. And you know what? I was trying to think. This was before Pinterest was around, I'm sure.
Well, then you're just
because I don't know how I don't know how I must have seen this on something, but I really don't think Pinterest, or I was not involved in Pinterest at least during this time. So
boy, there's a whole side conversation we could have about actually having creativity before the social media world just forced it upon us. Look, if this were just authentically organic.
Yeah, so I don't know where I saw this in a magazine, something, but she actually, and this is
Better Homes and Gardens.
She actually brought this when we were with her last weekend, and I gave her something for Valentine's Day, and she said, Mom, the frog Valentine's box that we did, and then I gave her that year a gigantic frog, Walmart Valentine's, and she said that was one of my favorite gifts. And she said, I guess I was really into frogs that year. I was like, I don't know, I guess so.
Look, we're just along for the ride with kids, right?
So I tried to find her a big frog, but he may be up in the attic. So that was, fun. And their parties I was room mom for many, many, many years. So I was always involved in the parties. So, and I'm glad that they've at least kept that going.
Right.
So then this is, again, what killed another, killed
the couples part of Valentine's Day, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That it translates. So this is daddy-daughter dance. Mm-hmm. This is getting dressed up, going, and, she gets to wear the little frilly dress or whatever, the nice dress. And Miso, don't eat the cord. Move on. So she's eating. Sorry. He's
Y'all
back.
did eat. Y'all did go
He
to a
is
restaurant.
eating an HDMI cable. You know, it's interesting. And it's a special time. It's one, and of course, it ends with butterfly kisses and all that sort of stuff. It's just sweet.
Yeah.
And even as she got older, it may not have been as sweet. It just was still a memory. It was a moment, and I think even she would say that those were just times to connect and just be,
Yeah.
in that. The relationship of the love between a dad and a daughter got to manifest. And I hope that it did show her what it does mean to be loved by someone and how that can be. I did see actually a picture of somebody that we went out to. We would go with other dads and daughters. And I saw Eric's picture with
Shayla
Lexi. And it wasn't the same year, but I remember going with them once to Randy's Steakhouse. We'd always go to a nice place and have a nice dinner before going. These are great memories and great pictures.
Frisco does a really good job
Yes.
of putting this on. I mean, this was not a thing when I was younger, but when we moved here, we were like, oh, the daddy-daughter dance, and it sells out, and it's always the weekend before Valentine's. So that does, but yes, she would have fond memories. And I mean, we would go dress shopping and we would do her hair. And so, those are good memories for y'all. This was another thing as we got older.
Why do couples not do Valentine's Day?
This one was on Valentine's Day. Sorry. Yes, I know. I forget that. This is soccer games. When you're on varsity soccer in high school, well, I guess all the teams are. It's always Tuesdays and Fridays. So this Valentine's Day, we were at soccer.
We were at soccer, and
I've spent many of my holidays at soccer.
Remember the Mother's Day tournaments? Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think I'm glad that we had decided early on that Valentine's Day wasn't going to be this scripted declaration because instead of being bitter about these introductions, we could laugh about them. We would always joke, oh, well, we're not going to do Valentine's, but we didn't mind.
I probably didn't even know it was Valentine's Day,
I bet you did.
But by this point, the kids were not doing parties. They weren't doing, I would get the kids something, but so that was anher stealer of time. But then,
so how do we get it back?
Yes.
This actually was Valentine's Day. And this was Tanner was invited to go visit Arizona State in the Honors College there. And so they're like, all right, well, if they're paying for his ticket, let's all go. Mm-hmm. He had a girlfriend at the time, so he wanted to go back. So when I say a day trip, we all flew out on the first flight out that morning. He flew back that evening. Mm-hmm. Well, Clancy and I decided we're going to go stay at a resort. So this is the Westin Kierland up in Scottsdale. For those that know the Waste Management Tournament, it's very close to there. Yes. And the classic leg pointed at the pool picture. This was a return to couples Valentine's Day.
And again, I mean, yes, we're laying out by the pool in the, it's February 14th.
Yeah.
This is why we love Arizona. Now, this weekend, you not be able to do that, but this is why we love Arizona. And so, yes, that kind of bookended our, Valentine's. We
stopped doing it because of kids. Now one is going off to college. We get to do it because of kids.
So,
actually, this is because of kids. Yeah, that
was a good
and
trip.
We ate in the hotel with hotel reservation. Like we didn't. I don't know.
I don't think we left.
The complex.
I don't think so.
That's the way to do Valentine's Day.
So, and this is also a special trip because it did solidify his decision to go there. And we have obviously had a great time the past 4 years.
Here's a tip. If you want your kids to go to Arizona, have them visit the school in February.
When all their other friends are visiting places, schlepping through snow. And
Boston College doesn't feel the same on February 14th as ASU or U of A does.
Yeah. So that was that. And then I just put a couple of pictures because there were times that these were both, I showed up to work and you had left.
These are pictures of roses.
They were
These are
in
flowers.
Ashley's office because I don't have an office, but that's where I sit.
It would have been odd if I'd left it on the treadmill. Yes.
So there have been times that.
Yeah. I'm not a good flower giver. This is something that I don't do well at. I just tend to forget about them. And then even I enjoy having flowers in the house. I think they're nice. I'm not not the greatest of gift givers.
Well, and I think because there was one point in our relationship that I said, I don't want flowers because
Yeah.
they just die. And so I think then that
Oh,
you
yeah.
heard, I'm never buying flowers ever again.
The
And then
switch just went off. Flowers? No.
and then one day I said, well, it would be nice to get flowers sometimes. So.
And it's so rare. I will be the first to admit that I am the worst at this, but I've thrown some flowers your way on rando days.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, it's fall, so let's get a fall decorate, that kind of thing.
I mean, and I love fresh flowers, to have around the house and stuff. I just don't buy them because, yeah, they, die in a couple of weeks. But I do like, it does add, to your house and that kind of thing. So yeah. So
it is. This is another one that it's hard for me to choose to do it on Valentine's Day, and not, yes, there's the cost. I get that. I feel like I'm not being authentic if I do this on the day, because then I feel like it wasn't me thinking of you. It was me looking at a calendar that forced me to think of you. And that's not necessarily the right view. It's just that's what sticks in my head.
Well,
and so that's why
yeah.
I struggle with this one when it comes to gift giving.
It again has become a holiday that's so commercialized. I mean, Kroger has the huge tent out front. And it's always, again, like we talked about, men, come get your,
I almost feel embarrassed. Like, I feel like,
the big
oh,
tent.
you're the loser that forgot to get them until today, which isn't the case. They're fresh flowers, but it just feels like you're the loser doing the drive-through. And that's wrong. It just feels that way.
That's like all the men at the mall on Christmas Eve to get Christmas gifts.
I don't even know if that's true anymore. But, oh, man.
So there was a couple of, and then last year you made me a mixtape on Spotify.
Yes.
So and that was sweet. It had songs that meant something to us. So
I hope I included all the ones that we mentioned earlier. I think I did. It was a lot more than that. And that mixtape, the good thing about Spotify is it's still there. We can listen to it anytime we want. Yeah. I actually looked for an MP3, like something that was a physical cassette tape that you could load songs on, and you would just plug into like aux. Not an actual cassette tape, but I couldn't find it. Yeah. So the business opportunity, if somebody wants to go into business with me creating faux cassette tapes.
I'm just waiting for talking about mixtapes, and everything is going backwards. And so I am so ready to see these kids walking around campus with their Walkmans and their headphones, because they've already started to go back to the big headphones again. Yeah. And so I call it next year.
You think you're going to see?
I think
there's going to be some influencer with the crappy little headphones and the yellow Walkman.
And it may not be, like you just said, it may not be physical tapes that go in there, but maybe your phone goes in there and then you can play your, I don't know. I think because they're starting to show going backwards to cameras and that kind of thing. So I don't know.
The washed out, the camera with the washed out flash photography is so popular now.
So
there's Valentine's. That's the evolution of Valentine's. So for those that were looking for Valentine's tips, you may not have gotten them today, but you at least have heard how we've evolved through a Valentine's holiday.
Or maybe you can say, you know what Rick and Clancy do? They just don't do it.
Oh, man, here's your excuse. Well, I heard this on a podcast.
I don't know. Day. By our age, people are probably already set in what they do, but
you're not really learning from us.
And I have tried to tell, I mean, I even told Tegan this week, because she was talking about one of her friends whose dad is deployed right now. And, he sent her something to give to her mom. Mm-hmm. And I said, your dad and I we don't view it as something that we have to do on that day. So I'm trying to let her know that, the guys have a lot of pressure on them. It doesn't always have to be, that way. So there we go.
All right.
It's fun memory lane walking down Valentine's. So we have a couple of kid texts, and you brought up waste management, because one of ours was at the waste management tournament, this golf tournament this weekend.
And it's just to celebrate, for those that can't see it, WMO, right? Just talking about the Waste Management Open. Baby, gotta love it. And what a fun experience. For those that I don't even have a real depth of awareness of golf. but this is the people's tournament. There are 100,000 people, maybe 200,000. They don't take attendance.
And it's in Phoenix.
Yeah,
so.
and it's the crazy one where you actually get to cheer and celebrate and boo the players when they do badly. And the players are cool. They know that's what the scene is. The players encourage it. They're pumping up the crowd. So it's the least golf tournament there is. And so he got to go to that this week.
Yeah, the decorum is not golf.
Oh, this is not Masters.
People are in costumes. I mean, there was a guy in a Barat
swimsuit,
which Tanner he sent a text saying, sending the Barat guy. So he must be sending us a video. But
and for those that don't know the Barat swimsuit, then you shouldn't know it. But if you do know it, well, then you know.
So he had a great time, and I'm so glad that they got to go their senior year, and the weather turned off great. It was not so great in the beginning, so it turned off great. And then we had some really good news from our other child, Tegan. She said, yeah, I think I'm going to like my new roommate. For those of you who have been following us along, we have discussed the situation with Tegan's roommate and how she was they were not vibing. So she got to move this weekend. Her friends that are awesome helped her move. Her new roommate was gone, but she left her this super sweet note. So
without knowing who Tegan is, it was titled "Hi, New Roommate."
Yeah, because they don't tell. Tegan didn't know who she was moving in with. This girl didn't know who she was getting,
and still went out of her way to write a sweet note to a stranger that's going to essentially come into her space that she's had. Yeah. And we are so optimistic that is a sign of the. And we're not even looking for best friends out of Tegan here. It's just compatible humans that can enjoy each other's company. But that was just so sweet. And last week you saw or heard Clancy tear up a little bit as we were kind of talking about things. And there have been tears talking about the roommates. Mm-hmm. Well, there were tears this time when we saw that letter too.
Yeah. It was just,
there is some answer to prayer right now.
We are very thankful to God that hopefully this seems like it's going to be a good situation for her to end her freshman year. So we are so thankful that we got that text yesterday.
And the move didn't seem to be too onerous either, right? She just had to move stuff from across the street, which was great. Yeah. The room itself looks great. So it's just...
and we were just out there last weekend and we're like, do you need us to come? She's like, no. She's like, I have 4 people helping me move.
Including
it's
2
good.
that she told us are quite the organizers.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So they went, it was.
If you're moving, find friends that are organizers.
So, that just makes us so happy going into this week and just thankful.
Well, we plan to release this episode a day early. So you already know that if you're listening to this. So I hope that for those of you that are listening on the day of release, that you do have a wonderful Valentine's Day. Whether you did script something, we're sorry if we just killed your vibe for going out to dinner tonight. And for those that aren't, enjoy that pizza in front of the TV snuggled up with your significant other or whatever the heck you do.
Yes. Happy Valentine's Day. This has been another episode of The Loud Quiet.
Living the Empty Nest.